So now that it's been some time, I think it's necessary to revisit 28 Years Later, a highly anticipated sequel that had all the promise in the world. A great cast, the director of the original movie returning, a possible return of a beloved character and actor, but after some time with the release, this movie didn't exactly turn out the way a lot of people wanted. Now, a lot of this stems directly from the ending and how out of place it felt, so I'm definitely going to be talking about that, but you see, 28 Years Later is doing something incredible, something that clearly no one on the face of the planet has ever thought of before, and that's filming this movie and its sequel back to back, meaning that the second movie will come out, wait a minute, just 2 weeks from now? That's only a difference of about 6 or 7 months, 28 weeks later, if you will, which in today's world might as well just be like clicking next episode. And with a confirmed third movie coming after this, could we be judging 28 Years Later a little too harshly? This is not a standalone movie. It was never meant to be, but the first two in the series were standalone movies, so I think a lot of people, myself included, went in with the expectation of this being a story told from beginning to end. And when it wasn't, it left a lot of people wanting more, but not really in a good way. Full spoilers ahead for the first 28 Years Later, and spoilers for the trailer of the Bone Temple, so let's cross the bridge and into the wilderness, find the Bone Temple, and run into a band of Power Rangers as we talk about 28 Years Later. Of course, with Danny Boyle returning, people expected this movie to feel much more like 28 Days Later rather than weeks, and right from the opening scene, we can see that's true. This is a very unique movie in a lot of different ways. There's footage that's from completely different movies and different things. There's out-of-order sequences, some blurry camera footage, some split camera footage, and all around just unique filming techniques. If you're looking for a very straightforward and very typical or traditional film, then this probably isn't going to be for you. The opening scene follows a young boy seeing his friends and family get killed by the infected. He runs away, hides, and ultimately escapes. Funnily enough, while this is Danny Boyle and it very much feels like 28 Days Later, this opening sequence more so reminds me of the opening to 28 Weeks Later, which I guess is a nice way to bridge those two together, even though the ending to 28 Weeks Later is more or less just entirely retconned. Alex Garland, the writer of the movie, has said that it's not an entire retcon, just that somewhere between weeks and years, the virus was contained and pushed back. But yeah, that promise of the infected going to France, yeah, we never saw that. So yeah, this film very much feels like 28 Days Later, mainly due to how it's filmed. This is pretty famously shot on an iPhone, so you know that thing that you're watching this video on? Or that thing in your pocket? Yeah, you too could make this exact movie with that thing. You know, if you were to buy like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of extra equipment, oh, and like a dozen more iPhones in order to make this contraption, so that way you can have shots like this. And this movie actually does this exact shot quite a bit. Don't get me wrong, it's cool. It was cool the first time, it was cool the 10th time that they did it, but it also just kinda is a way to be like, hey, look what we can do now. It doesn't really have any intention, which, you know, I don't really personally care about, but I know it probably drives my old film professors insane, because every camera movement should have an intention to it, and if it doesn't, then it's just unnecessary and should be cut out because... So the film continues on, and we flash forward 28 years later. And we see what I initially presumed to be the adult version of this character, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. We see a bit of his home life, his son Spike, and his bedridden wife Isla, played by Jodie Comer. Jamie is taking Spike out off the island to go hunting for the first time. A rite of passage for all the hunters on the island, and now that Spike's old enough, he has to leave the safety of this island. Everyone's very happy and cheering him on and wishing him luck because they kind of need him to have luck to bring back food for them. And in terms of typical zombie survival movies, 28 Years Later hits just about all the nails right on the head. People always talk about where they would go to survive a zombie apocalypse, and an island is something that always pops up. But having an island that has a way off of it when it's low tide and no way to get on it when it's high tide sounds like the perfect scenario. This place is fortified, sustainable, and overall just passed all those checks when it comes to survivability in the zombie apocalypse. And before the comments go nuts, I get that the infected in this movie aren't zombies, but for all intents and purposes, this is still a zombie apocalypse movie. It has all the same tropes and elements to it, so excuse me if I refer to this as a zombie apocalypse and not an infected apocalypse. So the stakes are raised quite a bit when Jamie and Spike leave the island. We get that infamous Boots song that was used in the trailer, intercut with these infrared shots of the infected at night to show us how menacing they truly are, and honestly, this works incredibly well. This hunt feels dangerous for these characters, and because this is our first time off the island along with Spike, we start to feel more for his character and see things through his point of view. We learn about the different types of infected, the crawlers, the runners, the alpha, and it really does feel like it's been 28 years. These people have been living in this apocalypse for that amount of time. There's some really great and intense action sequences where Jamie becomes John Wick with a bow, and while Spike isn't as skilled, he also isn't dumb or making bad decisions. He's just inexperienced, which is another area where I think this movie excels. While this is a horror movie and a zombie apocalypse movie, the characters themselves aren't stupid. They've been living this long for a reason. Even when characters start to make risky decisions, they're motivated by emotions, and we aren't just sitting there saying, wow, that was a dumb move. The hunt doesn't go according to plan, causing Jamie and Spike to lay low for a while, giving us some more exposition about the alpha, and even this strange fire burning in the distance, and how it could be a former doctor who's apparently gone insane. An old man on the island even says later that he's surprised this man could still be alive. They decide to move because the high tide is coming in, which leads to what I think is the best sequence in the movie. The Alpha tails behind them, despite their best efforts and the defense of the island, that seems like it's going to be too much for them to take down. Jamie even admitting defeat towards the end and embracing his son. But the Alpha is eventually taken down, and everything about this sequence is just fantastic. The music is unique and suspenseful, the tension and the horror of the Alpha running keeps you on the edge of your seat, the sky looks absolutely beautiful, if not a little out of place. This whole scene kind of reminds me of like how I picture things in my head when I'm reading a book. It just looks slightly off when it comes to realism, but it looks great, so I'm not going to complain too much. There's a celebration on the island for Spike's return, Jamie lying about Spike's great sharpshooting abilities, Spike enjoying the celebration a little too much, where he ultimately finds his father sneaking off with another woman. This forces Spike to be at odds with Jamie, and knowing his mother isn't getting the treatment she needs here, he takes her way, hoping to go and find that crazed doctor. Again, this could be thought of as a stupid decision, but it's motivated. It's a son doing everything he can to save his mother. However long the odds are, it doesn't matter. So once again, we can see where Spike's head is at, and since he's taking this action himself, even when he's not supposed to be doing this, it makes him a more active protagonist. So Spike takes his mother on this perilous journey to find this crazed doctor, and once again, the stakes feel very high. We know that Spike isn't the most skilled hunter, and now he has to take care of his ill mother, who's having hallucinations and doesn't really know where she is. Anything could go wrong at any time. And when they take shelter for the night, something does go wrong. Until it doesn't, and Spike and his mother are saved at the last moment by some unseen force. Is it the crazed doctor? Is it Jamie who's followed them? Is it... oh, it's just Isla. So at this point in the movie, we know something's wrong with the mother, but it also seemed like something entirely unique. Of course, we eventually find out it's not, and I'm no expert on illnesses or anything, but this to me seemed like it was going to be incredibly important for the movie going forward, and it is emotionally, but I was just expecting something different, and I'll get to that later. It's at this point in the movie where it starts to feel less so like a zombie apocalypse film, and more so like a fantasy film. Spike is the clear-cut main character, something I don't think anybody was expecting based off of the trailers or the casting of Jodie Comer and Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Spike is the one going on the very typical hero's journey. He meets allies, comes across enemies, and is ultimately on a journey of self-discovery. But this is also the point where I think the movie starts to lose people. People who were expecting a more typical zombie survival film, something more akin to the first two movies, and honestly, you can't really blame them. That's what this movie was marketed as. It wasn't marketed as a fantasy hero's journey with the young boy as the protagonist. Personally, I liked this aspect. It surprised me, but I also like typical fantasy hero's journey stories. I also found Spike to be a good protagonist. I think Alfie Williams does a great job in the role, and I think this journey that they're on comes with some great moments. Specifically, when they meet the soldier Eric. Like a lot of typical fantasy films, Eric is the fish out of water character. He's a lot like us. He lives in an advanced society, has a phone, social media, everything. All these scenes feel like it's dropping somebody from modern day into a fantasy story. This comes with a lot of laughs and lighthearted moments, but in terms of a zombie story, I absolutely love this, and I think it presents us with the most unique situation I've ever seen out of a zombie apocalypse story. In most zombie apocalypse stories, it's the entire world that's infected. Society is gone, and it's kill or be killed. But in this world, life has gone on. Apparently the world doesn't need the UK, so they just leave everybody there to die. Literally. Eric tells Spike that he's done for, that nobody is going to come get him because once he's there, and there's no chance for rescue, which is very similar to the rules of the island that Spike learns at the beginning. But to see this person come from an advanced society come into this world is very jarring and puts into perspective what this world looks like. Why hasn't the rest of the world done something? Why hasn't the combined efforts of the military gone in, killed everything they could, and rescued those they can? It's a sad realization for many reasons, and I hope we get to learn more about this in future installments. The journey continues on, Isla even helping a pregnant, infected woman give birth, another indication that there's clearly something different about Isla. They're chased out by an alpha named Samson, he kills Eric, but then they come across the famous Dr. Kelson. The final act of this movie centers around Dr. Kelson's bone temple, a monument to the dead that he's been building for years. Kelson has been living by himself for years, figuring out ways to disarm the infected, blend in with them, and most importantly, try to understand them. As he is a doctor, he can diagnose Isla with cancer. Tell her that it's too far along, and maybe in the old world they could have treated it, but not here. So she says her goodbyes, and Kelson adds another bone to his temple.
What do you mean by that?
This whole sequence is very emotional. Not really something I would have expected from this movie going in, if I'm being honest, but also a bit depressing. This whole film, we've known that there was something different and wrong with Isla, and perhaps it's because this movie seemed to steep into fantasy territory, I was expecting a bit more meaning to Isla's condition. I figured she'd have some sort of special way to communicate with the infected, something she could teach Kelson. Perhaps her blood was going to have some cure to the infection. I'm not really sure, but to find out that she just has cancer instead of some other unique infection, I don't know, it left me personally a bit disappointed. This also leads to the whole third act to not really have a climax. There's no moment where the stakes are the highest, no big battle against the infected, no really great moment to end the movie off on. Now, call me TikTok-brained all you want, but it just typically means that after a certain point in this movie, my interest level does start to wane a little bit. Cap that off with the ending, and certainly when I thought about this movie in my head for a while, I would think about how great it starts, and then how it gradually starts to get less interesting. Which leads me to the ending itself. A highly controversial scene in which we see the young boy from the beginning all grown up, leading a band of tracksuit-wearing ninjas all calling themselves Jimmy, taking out the infected surrounding Spike. Now initially, it really seems like this comes out of nowhere, and honestly it still kinda does. Definitely left me with a bit of a sour taste in my mouth when I left the theaters, but after another viewing and some time to sit on it, I don't hate this ending as much as I initially did. Earlier in the film, when Spike and Jamie are on their first hunt, they find an infected body strung up. For seemingly no particular reason, it wasn't Jamie or the group from the island, but he tells Spike that there's some sick people on the mainland. And I didn't notice it the first time, but engraved in this infected person's back is the name Jimmy. There's also a few other times that we see the name Jimmy, like on this barn when Isla and Spike are passing by it, so while people might not have liked the ending, it was definitely always intended to come down to it. Pair this with the intro and Jimmy seeing his entire family and friends die in front of him, I guess it's fair to think that this guy wouldn't exactly be right in the head. Is this enough setup for tracksuit wearing ninjas? No, it's not. It still feels a bit jarring, but with all that said, I actually think that this ending is going to be looked back on a bit more fondly after the next installment. From the trailer, we can see that Jimmy and his band of Jimmies are going to be a huge focus of the second film. We're going to learn more about this cult of sorts and why they act this way, how they're so skilled at fighting, and when it's all said and done, this ending scene probably won't be as jarring when you look at the whole picture. Now, when it comes to people years from now watching this for the first time, yeah, this scene will be jarring, it will always be like that, but for those of you who kind of looked at this scene as a deal breaker, I think when we're given more information in the next installment, it'll be fine. So that leads me to the Bone Temple. What do we actually know about it so far? Well, there's been lots of critics and content creators who have already watched it. Not me, though. But it's been given great reviews by everybody who has seen it. Even people who didn't like the first one or didn't like the ending of 28 Years Later, they still praise this one. And usually when a studio is confident enough to release their movie to critics, like over a month before it actually releases, that's a pretty good indication. From the trailers, we can see that this centers on the Jimmy gang, Dr. Coulson, and what seems to be either like a new group of people or a series of flashbacks. One thing that's notably absent in the trailer is, of course, Cillian Murphy, who's been confirmed to reprise his role as Jim in this film. Now that sounds exciting, but even they've told us straight up that he's only playing a small part in this film, with the third and final movie of the trilogy focusing on his character a bit more. So honestly, I wouldn't expect anything other than like a brief cameo, probably right at the end, just like the Jimmies were at the end of 28 Years Later. It's this slow drip of story with the promise of Cillian Murphy at the end. Nostalgia is a powerful tool, so even if he is only in like 30 seconds of the second movie, it's gonna get people to go and see this movie. But from what I can tell in the trailers, unless it's purposeful misdirection, is that the infected people, who have been infected for a long time, are starting to recognize different patterns in their behavior, in other humans' behavior. In one scene, we can see Dr. Kelson not having to shoot a dart at the infected Jason Momoa, even going over to touch him at one point. We also see that Samson is having flashbacks of his own, leading me to believe that this is going to be a pretty pivotal character of this movie, especially when it comes to The Cure. Now, if you've seen this channel before, you know I'm a big zombie guy. I'll watch just about anything with zombies in it, and one thing I've always found to be a little lazy or dumb was a zombie cure. However, I think because I've spent so much time covering this genre, and particularly The Walking Dead, I've made a complete 180 on that sentiment. I actually now like when there's a cure in zombie stories. It's the natural ending point for a zombie apocalypse, a way for the heroes to win, a definitive ending point that isn't just death for all. And I think if this is the direction they're going in 28 Years Later, that could be very interesting. Will the infection just die out and this guy will return to who he once was? Try to find something to cover up his absolutely monster. Or will this be a bit more nuanced? The infection slowly dying away, causing a horrible fever, and even some people who might not make it past this. I think it'll be more along those lines, perhaps even something about Isla and her condition, or her skull will make this cure possible. There's also the baby that the island now has, and we haven't seen that anywhere in the trailer, or Jamie for that matter. I find it hard to believe that Jamie won't go out and search for Spike, so I'd expect to see him in this movie. If not this movie, then definitely the third one. So if I'm giving a theory for the second and third entries, I'd say that Dr. Kelson's gonna find a way to cure Samson, the Jimmies arrive at the Bone Temple and serve as a big roadblock to making this cure. Maybe they'll even try to take it and destroy it, since Jimmy has all of his power from being in an apocalypse. Samson at this point will either be cured or on the way to being cured, and in order to stop Jimmy and the other Jimmies from destroying the cure, Spike will try to stop him, but ultimately be unsuccessful, causing Kelson to have to infect himself so that way he can stop Jimmy. Once he does that, Samson will kind of come back to normal and try to cure Kelson unsuccessfully. After all this, I think Spike and Samson will stumble upon Jim, who will know a place to bring this cure, which will lead to the third entry, all about Jim and Spike and Samson and Jamie and whoever else trying to cure the world. Or maybe this cure thing isn't gonna happen, and this is all wrong, who knows. Despite its shortcomings, I still think 28 Years Later is a great movie, and a bit too harshly judged if I'm being honest. You can't judge this as a movie on its own, but as part one of a trilogy. That's like not liking Fellowship of the Ring because they didn't destroy the ring at the end of it. I'm not as high on this movie as I was when I first walked out of the theater. I hardly ever am, but I still love this movie. I think it's a great addition to this franchise, and I can't wait to see how this trilogy goes. So I'm giving 28 Years Later an 8.4 out of 10. What are your thoughts on 28 Years Later? What are your thoughts and predictions for the Bone Temple and this unnamed third entry? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more stuff like this, and I'll see you all in the new year.